Hey everyone, it's Sophie and welcome back to my channel. So today will be part 1 of my journey up until now with my health issues. So what I'm going to do is basically just do an outline of the major things that have happened, and I'll do separate videos on some of the symptoms I'm having and all of the testing that I've had done. So for this video, it's going to be from March to November of 2020. And for the most part, it'll just highlight the hospitalizations with a little bit of symptoms I was having as well as tests that I had done. I will be looking at my computer, so if you see me staring off screen, that is what I'm looking at, and that is what the glare on my glasses is from. So looking back at emails that I've sent to my doctor, it seems that my symptoms started on March 1st, which was a Sunday. It started with a sore throat and a fever. The following weekend on Saturday, I went on vacation and did some quote-unquote hiking and noticed I was more short of breath than I was expecting to be, but just chalked it up to it being the first time I was out in a while because winter had just gotten over, so I didn't really think much of it. As March continued, I started getting headaches constantly. I ended up with a really bad cough. It made work difficult just because talking made me cough. And of course at this time COVID was coming out, so everyone was concerned about that. So the first time I was tested for COVID was April 3rd, and it was negative. The person who did the test actually asked me if they did it right, which I found a little interesting. And then on April 10th, I went to urgent care because the cough wasn't getting any better, it was getting worse. Urgent care wanted me to be tested again for COVID, and they said if my oxygen dropped any lower to go to the ER. I hadn't been tracking my oxygen up until that point, so I didn't know what it was. So the next day when I woke up, for chuckles, I wore my pulse ox just around the house, walking downstairs and whatnot, and it was dropping into the 80s. So I decided to pack a bag and go to the ER. It took me over 2 hours to get everything together just because I was so short of breath. It was just taking longer than expected. Once in the ER, I was again tested for COVID. It was again negative. The ER doctors did think I had COVID and it was a false negative. They started me on 2 different types of IV antibiotics, and I was admitted. Once on the unit, they did not think I had COVID because the test was negative. They changed all my antibiotics around. They said I probably had aspiration pneumonia, which really didn't make any sense because the pneumonia was all throughout both lungs, and that's normally not what happens with aspiration pneumonia. I'm just looking to make sure I'm getting everything. So I was in the hospital over the weekend, and I came home, I think it was on Monday, and I was feeling better. I wasn't as short of breath, but I was so tired. I was sleeping a ton, like 12, 18 hours a day. Anything I would do, I would need to nap. It was just horrible. And then the shortness of breath came back. I was hearing my heart beating. It would sound like it was a murmur at times, like I hear swishing noises. I did eventually see a cardiologist over telehealth because they weren't seeing anyone in person at that time. And I did get an echocardiogram done, which showed my ejection fraction, so the percentage of blood your heart pumps out with each beat was normal. It was 55 to 60%. I also wore a heart rate monitor for a week, and that also came back normal. Though in my mind, my max heart rate was in like the 140s, and I wasn't exercising. This is just walking around my house, and walking like up and down stairs was the most active I was. So I didn't really see any reason for my heart rate to be that high, but the doctors just didn't think anything of it because my EKG part was normal. I did try to return to work in June, but that did not happen. I almost passed out. I had to catch myself, and I was just really weak, really tired. So I didn't go back to work. I only worked 4 hours. And then I went back to the ER again under my doctor's suggestion. She wanted to see if I had any blood clots in my lungs, which I did not. So I just went back home. I continued to sleep a lot. I was still short of breath. Nothing was getting any better. I was trying to exercise because people kept telling me, oh, you're just out of shape. You were really sick with pneumonia. You're just really out of shape. So I kept trying to exercise, but then I kept crashing and sleeping for, just days. Like, there were days I didn't even want to get out of bed to feed my cat. I was just too tired. I did return to work in July, and July was also the first time I had pulmonary function tests done, and they were horrible. Basically everything was lower than it was supposed to be. Wasn't long before I was hospitalized again in September, again with pneumonia all throughout both my lungs. I was in the hospital longer this time. I was in for about 5 days. They did more testing. They did another echocardiogram, and my ejection fraction had fallen to 40 to 45%. When I got home, I also had a high-res CT scan to see if I had like an interstitial lung disease, and I did not. I was started on metoprolol, which is a beta blocker, because my ejection fraction was low, and I had a cardiac MRI, and it had improved to 51%. I had more pulmonary function tests done. I had a Doppler or an ultrasound done of my legs, because I had a lot of leg swelling, just to see if I had any blood clots in my legs, or if I had blood backing up because my veins weren't working correctly, but that was all normal. So yeah, things just aren't going well. I'm not getting better. Then in October, I was hospitalized again with pneumonia. This time it wasn't all throughout my lungs. It was just in one spot in each lung. So I was again hospitalized. I was just overnight this time. I got some IV antibiotics. And then some weird things started happening symptom-wise that I've noted. And again, I'll go into more of my symptoms in another video. But a piece of my tooth chipped off, and not like just a corner or something. Like, I could literally see the different layers in my tooth itself. It was really weird. I went to the dentist. They said they'd never seen anything like that before. And basically they filled it as if it was a cavity, but it wasn't a cavity. Like, part of the enamel just chipped off my tooth. It's really weird. I also had a bronchoscopy, so they stick a camera down into your lungs so they can see what's going on. They took some samples. They did what they call a bronchial lavage, to see if anything would grow, to figure out why I kept getting these pneumonias. Nothing grew, so that was inconclusive. It didn't solve anything. And then in November, I had more pulmonary function tests, and again, they're just deteriorating. No one really knows why at this point. I have to back up. There's something I forgot in September. So while I was hospitalized and telling them I was short of breath, they would do a walking pulse ox. So they'd have me walk back and forth in the room, because even though I had tested negative for COVID again, I still had all of the symptoms, so I was on COVID precautions. And they had me do this 3 different days, and each day my oxygen dropped into the 80s. So that is when I ended up on home oxygen, and I've been on oxygen ever since. And I guess I'll make another video talking about that after I'm done with going through all this. So 2020 was just a lot of hospitalizations. I had bilateral pneumonia 3 times. To this day, they still don't know why. They never figured that out. So that is where I'm going to end this video. And the next video will pick up where this one left off in December of 2020. And that is when things begin to get really weird. So thank you for watching, and I hope you continue to join me on this journey. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!